So, you're probably wondering why I'm about to get the utter crap beaten out of me. Well, it wasn't my fault that this musclehead decided to break my face. Here, let me explain what happened. See, my girlfriend and I keep having the same issue brought up over and over. Instead of just putting it behind us, it always gets brought back up during a new argument, so the issues just keep piling up. I don't want to break up with her, I want to spend the rest of my life with her, but she can be so stubborn that she won't stand down in a fight. Well, after a recent fight resulted in insults being thrown, I finally decided I just wanted to resolve it. These arguments aren't worth losing her over. So, I put my pride aside, and I made her favorite banana cream pie from scratch. I knew a lot of effort was put into it because by the time I finished, I was 30 minutes late to meet her. I told her I was running late and was rushing to go meet her. I was heading to the local college when suddenly... it happened. And as if things weren't already worse as it is, I got clobbered by the Hulk. See? I'm the victim here.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. What a no-good, bad-tempered schmuck of a bully for attacking that poor, innocent nerd. Well, let me tell you something. You don't know shit. First of all, that poor innocent nerd is the antagonist of this story. I'm actually the victim here. Yeah, it looks bad now, but damn it, I had a legitimate reason. I was doing an essay for my course, and I thought I understood the writing prompt and instructions right. I did my research, conducted interviews, and I proofread, revised that paper so many times that I lost track. Well, turns out I completely misunderstood the assignment and received a D on the paper. All that effort, completely overshadowed by this error in judgment. So, I decided to go to my professor's office hours. I'm no quitter. I wanted to see if there was anything I could do to make up for this paper. I didn't want to lose my spot in line to meet with him, so I stayed right next to his door. Sucky thing though, the sun was directly in my eyes. Still, I stood my ground. If there was one thing I'm sure of, I'm no fool. I wanted to correct my mistake and do better. Then he showed up. The nerve of this guy! After that, he had the gall to start laughing at me! I wasn't gonna take that disrespect at face value, so I showed the value of my fist in its face!
So, who was in the wrong here?
He was!
Well, after hearing your side of the story, accidents happen.
Conflict. It's an issue that arises in a relationship, happening due to any number of reasons, intentional or not. Disagreements with partners, being stuck in the middle when two of your friends are fighting, the list goes on. What's the interesting aspect of conflict is that, even though it's viewed in a negative light, there is absolutely no relationship that exists without conflict. It's a natural occurrence that comes with absolutely any relationship. Whether it be an accident with a stranger, an argument with a significant other, even a brief encounter with an animal can cause all kinds of mishaps. I'm looking at you, Mr. Roly-Poly. Sorry, I had a flashback to a shopping cart. Anyways, the bottom line is that conflict is a normal occurrence in our lives. As normal as getting sick. Even though conflict poses an abnormality in our regular day-to-day lives, it's a matter of understanding the complexity of conflict. It comes from its correlating concepts that we can learn more about, such as how people approach conflict in the various situations that conflict arises in. Here, let's break it down using the story you just heard. Get ready, Arena's about to do some educating up in here! Sorry, couldn't resist. Tim and his girlfriend are introduced already within a conflict. This specific kind of conflict was already pre-existing. The reason being is that it was an unresolved conflict, meaning that it never fully came to a conclusion. In brushing aside conflicts like this, you leave open the possibility of it piling up, being brought back up in future conflicts, or even turning into a gridlock conflict in which there is no progress towards resolving said conflict. Overall, it can have majorly negative effects on the parties involved. Conflict can occur for a number of reasons, such as each person's perception or differences in goals, but it's important to find closure with the conflict, as you could risk it becoming a destructive conflict, or a conflict that ultimately terminates the relationship. Yeah, not good, especially since our protagonist Tim wants to marry his girlfriend. Destructive conflict often results by what's known as the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Sheesh, talk about an intimidating name. The 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse refer to the 4 negative aspects of an unresolved conflict, or a conflict that's verging on becoming destructive. The 4 are criticizing, defensiveness, stonewalling, and contempt. Criticizing is basically when nagging takes place, like Tim's girlfriend was giving criticism and Tim wasn't sure how to take it. Defensiveness is when you talk back trying to save face. Now, defending yourself is a good thing, especially when things take a nasty turn, but when defensiveness turns hostile in a conflict, that's when you want to start progressing towards making criticism constructive, and try not to let pride escalate a situation. Otherwise, your relationship may take a turn towards stonewalling, in which the people involved will withdraw from interacting, refusing to engage in any sort of communication. The straw that breaks the camel's back is when contempt starts to arise within the relationship. This is when progress is no longer being made towards a resolution, so parties begin to validate themselves using insults, getting them nowhere and ultimately leading towards the termination of a relationship, if not promptly remedied. Despite all this, however, the fact still remains the same, and that is conflict is completely normal in any relationship. It's important to communicate, have patience with one another, and try to find your mutual goals once more to restore balance in the relationship. One critical aspect I'd like to make clear is that even though conflict is a normal occurrence in a relationship, it should not be a frequent occurrence in a relationship. If it happens often, it may be best to get yourself out of that relationship. The reason being is that it could escalate, or even worse. It could no longer be just a situation of conflict, but of abuse and bullying. An abusive relationship's conflict is when one makes the other perceive them as holding the most power in the relationship. This is done by threats such as verbal, mental, and even physical abuse. This is a serious topic, so I want to take a moment to say right here, right now, that if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, then you need to get yourself out of that relationship. Take away their power by realizing you have power as well, something they want you to forget in order to control you. Think about it. Abusers and bullies choose their target. An abusive person wouldn't hit their boss like they would hit their partner in seclusion. A bully can hide behind a computer screen and become an anonymous cyberbully. They know what they're doing, so you should know that you don't have to allow them to do so. There are many resources out there to help you. You don't have to deal with this alone. It's a heavy but relevant and serious topic, so I just want to reiterate for you all. Yes, you watching this. Take care of yourself and those around you, okay? Conflict in relationships aren't uncommon, but when it's common and it's abusive, then you need to know when to say enough is enough. It's okay to get help, to seek a third party's aid. If need be, get help from a loved one, report to your school or to your local authorities, seek out counseling, a support group. And if it's someone you know who is receiving the abuse, then if you are able, then you can step up to the plate to be the third party or mediator. Never be afraid to reach out to help a friend. You never know how much they may need it. Okay, spiel over, reeling it back in. Let's see, where was I? Conflict, 4 Horsemen, speech. Oh yeah! Now that that's out of the way, this brings us to the 5 conflict styles. Now, how to define conflict styles is a bit tricky, but...
I have a short clip about conflict styles.
Well, that's very kind of you, Luma, but we don't have a place to watch it. Where did you put the screen?
In the 4th wall. Don't think about it too much.
$193, $194. Huh?
I'm missing jelly beans from my jar! Now, whichever one of you bozos took them, you better give them back or I'll smash this whole jar over your head!
I'll give you some of mine. Heck, you can have the whole jar if that makes you feel better. Just, please don't be angry.
There's no need for that. I say we all eat some of ours. That way we all have the same amount.
But I already lost some! I don't want to lose more to gain some, you jerk!
Alright, I propose this solution. We combine all of our jars, so that way we have one giant pile of jelly beans, so we're all satisfied. If you'd like, we can even redistribute equally from the new pile, so everyone has an even amount of jelly beans.
I guess that's better than nothing, since I still win something in the end.
Oh, that's perfect! Whatever works best for you guys.
As long as we can satisfy a majority of the needs of the group in doing so.
Very good then.
Is it over now?
Each of these characters is a personified representation of what is known as a conflict style. A conflict style is how someone responds to conflict. It can vary depending on the situation or those involved, but we each have a specific form of core conflict style. There are 5 different styles: dominating, avoiding, obliging, compromising, and integrating, each represented in the video you just watched. Here, let's introduce them. Dom is a dominating conflict style who basically has a me against you kind of mindset when issues arise. They can be a bit aggressive, but it's not always the main characteristic of a dominating conflict style. It's mainly this sort of competitiveness, wanting to prioritize their wants and needs, not really having much regard for others in doing so. Ob, the obliging conflict style, is the complete opposite of Dom. See, Ob puts the needs of others ahead of their own, pretty much not considering their own needs in favor of others in the process. Com is a compromising conflict style who focuses on finding the middle ground of all involved. This is similar to Int, who is an integrating conflict style. The main differentiating factor between a compromising and integrating conflict style is that Com is focused on a compromise, allowing things to be lost in order to be gained. You win some, you lose some is Com's motto. Int, on the other hand, wants to integrate everyone's wants and needs into the final solution. Though Int may take longer in order to formulate an equal solution, integrating conflict styles leave no stone unturned when finalizing a resolution. Last but certainly not least is Av, the avoiding conflict style. Av's skittish characteristics are just an over-exaggerated interpretation to portray the overall aversion avoiding conflict styles have towards engaging in conflict. They prefer to act in a way that prevents them from having to deal with the situation at hand, having a low regard for both themselves and for others. Now, I bet you're wondering, what are the conflict styles of our protagonists Tim and Buck? Well, even if you weren't wondering, I'm gonna tell you. Despite being the hothead we noticed during the conflict that causes the two of them to meet, Buck's style preference isn't dominating. Say what? Here, let me explain. Notice how Buck takes into consideration the wants of his professor for the assignment he's working on. He knows that in order to get a good grade, he needs to do a good job on the assignment. Now, he does lose some of his free time in order to put forth effort on this paper, but he works towards the mutual goal of doing well in the course. Even when he fails the first time, Buck tries to redeem himself and does his best work with his professor on how to move forward from this. Figure it out yet? Buck's conflict style is compromising. If you guessed it right, you get an imaginary cookie! See, Buck's intentions mean well, even if his execution isn't the greatest in the world at times. And so does Tim. That's right, Tim is a compromising conflict style too. You get a better sense of it when you analyze his actions. He constantly tries to resolve the conflict despite not making the most progress in his efforts. Heck, he even makes a pie from scratch as a token of peace. Tim understands that there are some things wrong that he needs to change and wants to find the solution in order to move forward with the girl he wants to marry. Two vastly different scenarios, but the same exact conflict style. And now as we come to a close, we focus on the main end goal that we want to see in conflict. In the case of our protagonists, the reconciliation and forgiveness. In the end, Tim and Buck forgive one another for the events that occurred. And Buck helps explain the situation to Tim's girlfriend, allowing them to better reconcile, and maybe even sparking an unexpected friendship between the unlikely strangers. The overall message: things happen. Conflicts happen. Accidents happen. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out the people who brought this story to life. And if you're interested in learning more about conflict, I highly recommend taking a course on conflict. In my case, conflict communication. Have a great one, everybody!